All right, guys, this is Rob of the SteelTwins coming back at you with weekly predictions. This go around, it is week 8 already. I mean, it feels like the season is flying by already, but week 8 predictions here. I am joined with a special guest, a Discord OG and Paper Portal. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. As you said, the season's going by way too fast. It's got to start slowing down.
It should, but it is what it is. But week 8
Yeah.
predictions, we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. We got the 5-1 Minnesota Vikings against the 2-5 Los Angeles Rams. What is your prediction here?
Yeah. So the Vikings lost their first game last week, but they were really evenly matched with the Lions, and I think they should feel really good about it. The Lions are on such a roll. I saw a stat that Jared Goff has less incompletions than the Lions have touchdowns the past few weeks, and that's ridiculous. And then the Rams, they've just been really bad. Now, a lot of that's because Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp have missed time, and he's throwing to guys like Jordan Whittington and Colby Parkinson, so it's going to be hard. But they've just been bad, and Stafford's really out there all alone. I think the Vikings are going to win this one pretty easily, so I'm going to take the Vikings.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would go with Minnesota right here. I feel like the Rams are still going to be competitive as long as Stafford is the quarterback. It's just the injury
Yeah.
bug has really hit them. I know they're getting cut back, so that should really help them in this game. But even in loss, Minnesota was still very competitive, and I still find them to be very convincing. And Sam Darnold, he's having a nice career resurgence, at least for this season, filling in for the injured JJ McCarthy. But Vikings are looking good offense and defensively, so I got to go with Minnesota here to get back on the win column. Sunday games, we got to start off. We got the Philadelphia Eagles against the Cincinnati Bengals. What's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, so the Cincinnati Bengals obviously started the season 0-3, but they've been 3-1 since. And their only loss was a game to the Ravens where they just blew a 10-point lead. They should have won that game. And the Eagles have been pretty good as well, but um, I think the Eagles are a bit overrated. I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I know they've been riding on Saquon Barkley. He's been great this season, and I'm sure the Giants greatly missed that they didn't bring him back. But I do think the Bengals are going to continue the streak. I think the Eagles have a young defense. They've got two rookie corners, and I think they're going to struggle to stop Jamar Chase and Higgins. So I'm going to take the Bengals in this one to get their third win in a row.
Them the Bengals. I mean, I got Philadelphia winning this one. I mean, Philly looked good against the Giants. Then again, it is the Giants we're talking about here, and Philly typically owns the Giants. I mean, you have a
Yeah,
point about Saquon Barkley because I feel if they didn't have Barkley, then they probably wouldn't have a convincing offense of that matter. Considering that they lost AJ Brown,
yeah,
they had to
absolutely.
lean on Barkley. It's just Barkley is that offense basically. He's living up to that contract. He's living up to his pedigree and whatnot. Had a big revenge game against the Giants, so to speak. Cincinnati, I mean, they're starting to get things on a roll. Joe Burrow's starting to connect with Jamar Chase a little bit more than he did within the first 2 weeks. T. Higgins is back. They got a decent running back committee and Chase Brown and Zach Moss. No like lead backs by any means, but they're capable of catching the ball out the field and running. As long as the O line can give them lanes to separate on, but for this game, I mean, like I can see this being extremely competitive, and I know Cincinnati's going to want to get another
Definitely.
win here, but I think I'm going to go with Philly on this one. Though I don't think it's going to be in convincing fashion. I think it will be close. Could come down to a Jake Elliott field goal, but I'm gonna go with Philadelphia to get a win here. So next game we got a AFC North divisional matchup, and I think this is one-sided right here. I'm gonna go. We're gonna go Baltimore at Cleveland. What's your prediction here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll never doubt AFC North football being close, even when there's a disadvantage with most of the teams. But I think this is one of the only times in NFL history we're going to be able to say that a quarterback making $230 million getting hurt actually helps the offense. But that's how bad Deshaun Watson has been. They've been awful this season. And I think they had Dorian Thompson Robinson as their backup this past week, but he was obviously very bad. And I think Jameis Winston should be the starter going forward. Um, but I mean, this team is just awful. They traded away Amari Cooper. Nick Chubb, he was back, but he's inefficient, and you can't trust him coming off of a really, really bad knee injury. And he is a free agent this upcoming season. So all signs are going down for Cleveland, and I'm all here for it. But I don't I don't think this one's going to be close. I think that the Ravens are on such a roll, and it's absolutely scary to the rest of the league that now Lamar Jackson has Derrick Henry, which has absolutely helped
Mhm.
the offense a ton. And I think Lamar right now is probably the front runner for MVP. He's just been ridiculous. He just had a 5 touchdown game against the Buccaneers. Um, they're Super Bowl contenders. I think I could very easily see Chiefs Ravens being the AFC Championship game, as much as I would hate it. But I think the Ravens are going to win this one, and I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah, no, no, not at all. I mean, Cleveland is just a dumpster fire, so to speak. I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he was the backup last week when Watson suffered his torn Achilles and whatnot, which I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but Watson being out is the best thing that could happen to Cleveland because he was that bad.
Yep, absolutely.
So, but, going with Robinson and not Winston, I mean, there's a reason why they didn't go with Robinson the rest of the way last year when Watson was hurt and they called up Joe Flacco off of the couch. So I don't know what they were thinking about with that decision making, but this is Cleveland at the end of the day. They don't really make wise decisions here. Because Cleveland's a mess, and apparently there's rumors circulating around that Myles Garrett is getting trade talks. Like trade rumors are speculating about Garrett potentially being traded. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know if he will get traded. I highly doubt. I don't think Cleveland's that stupid. But then again, this is the Browns we're talking about. But Baltimore, yep. I mean, they've won 5 straight since starting off 0-2, and they're just looking dominant. They had a very convincing and great win against the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. So Cleveland doesn't stand a chance in my eyes. I don't even think it's going to be competitive. I don't. I think Baltimore's just going to run right past them. Derrick Henry, I mean, he's without a doubt a huge asset to that offense. I think the Ravens are just going to have another great game. Give me Baltimore this week, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Next game, we got the Tennessee Titans, led by Mason Rudolph, going up against a Jared Goff-led Detroit Lions, who are just coming off beating the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. What's your prediction here?
Yeah, this is another really one-sided game. The Lions have been on an absolute roll. It's just, I mean, it's even without Aiden Hutchinson, it seems nearly impossible to beat this team. They've just got way too many weapons on offense. Now, Jamison Williams did get suspended for 2 games, so I think the offense is going to take a little bit of a hit, especially with his big play ability. But they're just running down people's throats with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And when one of them has a great game, the other one can take the game off. It happens, and then when they're both playing really well, it's even better. But the Tennessee Titans, they're all these, the Titans, the Browns, the Raiders, they're really lucky that the Panthers exist, because otherwise they would be in the running for the worst team in the league. But the Titans, I mean, they just look awful. I think Mason Rudolph is a little better than Will Levis because he's better at protecting the football. And Levis is just, every week he's got some kind of meme coming up with this guy. He's always throwing interceptions or making some ridiculous play. But I think they're a bit better with Mason Rudolph. And then Tony Pollard has played well. But I think the Lions are going to blow them out. I don't think the Titans stand a chance.
Yeah, I have to agree. Tennessee doesn't stand a chance whatsoever. Rudolph's a better game manager or a game controller, I would say, game manager, and he's he's protective of the football, and he's a better decision maker than Levis. It's just, like Tennessee, something's just not clicking for them. I don't know if it's the new head coach or the play calling or just the players not connecting, the chemistry's not there. Just something is just not working for Tennessee, no matter who the quarterback is, though I feel like Rudolph is the guy to go to the rest of the way. But Detroit, I mean, they're hot right now. They did lose Jamison Williams for 2 games, but I don't think that's really going to harm them one bit. They still got playmakers. They still got guys. They still got targets that they can get the ball to, and they're just going to be effective on offense, and that defense is just stepping up. Unfortunately, they lost Aiden Hutchinson to a serious injury, but, they got guys that can step up, and Detroit is just on another level this year, so give me Detroit to win this one here. Next game, we got the Arizona Cardinals against the Miami Dolphins. Now, I don't know if Tua will be back for this game. I think he was cleared to return to practice just yesterday, but his availability is uncertain for this game, so I don't know if it's really going to play a factor on the predictions here, but what's your prediction for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Dolphins with Tua and the Dolphins without Tua are a completely different team. Their quarterback play has just been bad. They're one of the worst offenses in the league without Tua. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have just been really non-used in this offense, and I'm sure they're both very excited to get Tua back in the future. But I think Tyler Huntley exited the game. He got injured, and Tim Boyle came in, who at every stage in college and the NFL has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. So I have no clue why he's still in games at this point. But the Cardinals, they started off the season a little bad, but last week they got a nice win over the Chargers. I still think Kyler Murray's a really good quarterback, and I think he slept on. He had a big touchdown run. He's a big play threat, and with Marvin Harrison back, it helps him out a lot. Uh, I think the Cardinals are a team that's going to be better than people expected. I think they're going to end up possibly as like an 8 or 9 win team, maybe pushing for the playoffs. And the NFC is a little weaker than the AFC. And I think they're going to win this game. And I think this could be a bit of a surprise blowout if the Dolphins do not have Tua this game. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm gonna go Arizona here. Miami is actually the favorite here for this one, so this is gonna be my upset of the week, quote unquote. If even if Tua is in here, like I don't know how his ability or how he's gonna play. I don't know how he's really gonna stand out because it could be a little bit rough coming off what was it, third concussion in his career so far in 2 years, or three concussions in 2 years, whatever the case may be. It's just,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're right. The absence of Tua is night and day. I mean, I don't think Tyreek even has 300 yards on the season because of it. And, even the running game hasn't really lived up. They've been affected. Achente hasn't really done much, even in the receiving game and whatnot. It's just Miami is missing Tua, but I don't know, like, even if Tua plays in this game, I don't know how big of a factor he's going to be because it's going to be his first game back coming off a concussion of that sort where he was out for 4 games. Arizona, like I feel like they're kind of inconsistent in a way. Like there's one game or 1 week they'll be competitive, then the next game they'll be getting blown out and whatnot. But I don't think this is the case of them getting blown out. They could be the team giving Miami the blowout. Very possible. They have the talent. Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner's a dog. They have other targets. They have other guys that can really play and step up. Murray, he's not. I don't find him consistent, but I find him to be very serviceable. And as of right now, Arizona is just kind of looking for that and, just trying to see how Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. can continue to build that chemistry since Harrison's obviously a rookie. But Harrison's off to a very good rookie season thus far. I think that continues here against Miami. I can see Harrison having a very good game here. Give me Arizona to win this one. Next game, we got an AFC East divisional matchup between the New York Jets, who have lost 4 straight, against the New England Patriots, who just got blown out by the Jacksonville Jaguars back all the way in England. So what's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, this may be the worst game of the week. These are two really bad teams, and the Jets clearly went all in on this season. They brought in Tyrone Smith, and then they just traded for Devontae Adams, and it has not worked out. I think firing Robert Saleh was a mistake because they're not getting better coaching at this point. And I don't know if he would have been their coach after the season, but I think they were better under him than what they are now. And Aaron Rodgers has been a major issue with this offense. The offensive line has really struggled, but they've got weapons on that team. They've got Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Mike Williams if they don't trade him, but they do have weapons, but he's just missing throws. He's obviously not mobile in the pocket anymore. And I think he's thrown like 7 interceptions, which has to be a career high at this point. He's just been bad, and he's really holding this offense back. And the Patriots, on the other hand, their offense has really taken a step up with Drake May. He has 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions so far. He looks exactly what they wanted. Obviously, their team is still really bad, but I do think they've got a lot of hope in the future that they have their guy at quarterback. I think this is going to be a really, really bad game, and it's going to be ugly. But I actually think the Patriots are going to win this game in a close one, thanks to Drake May.
And I'm actually surprised by that selection there. I mean, considering what I've seen last week, I feel like Drake May in at quarterback is a better Patriots team than when Jacoby Brissett was in there. I mean, you just get a sense of a better vibe, a better chemistry with Drake May in there. Like he's willing to throw the football. He's not afraid to make a mistake. He's a guy that's trying to get the ball to his targets. From what I'm seeing from Drake May, like he's made some mistakes here and there. I mean, every rookie's going to do so, but like I find him to be decent within his first 2 starts, his first 2 games. Like he hasn't looked overly terrible. You know what I mean? Like if he can work on the mistakes and build upon the good that he's doing, then I think the Patriots may actually have a solid quarterback for the next couple of years. But it's just going to be growing pains at this point with New England and Gerard Mayo as the head coach in his first year. It's just going to be a difficult season. They're just going to have to get through it the best that they can and just hope that any good comes out of it. But the Jets, losing 4 straight, it's just hard to envision seeing them lose 5 with the changes that they made, though I agree they should have kept Robert Saleh. I'm not saying that he was the coach for them or he was the answer. It's just the way that they fired him was kind of dirty and a little too sudden and too quick out of nowhere. I think Jeff Ulbrich is the interim head coach, and there hasn't really been a whole hell of a lot change, not much progress, despite Devontae Adams now being a Jet. But it doesn't seem to be going well. But the Jets need a win, and what better team to do that to against than a division rival and the Patriots of all teams? It's just whatever it takes for the Jets to get back in the win column and try to find something to gain some momentum on. So I see the Jets winning here, but I don't think it's going to be in any convincing fashion. I think this game's actually going to be really close because you are correct about A-Rod and his ability and his performance at his age. I think he's thrown 7 interceptions already on the season, and we're only in week 8. Like, he's been very turnover heavy than he normally is, and that's been a major component on why the Jets have actually been underperforming. But I think the Jets get a bounce back victory here, but not by much. But next game, we got the Atlanta Falcons against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just sustained 2 unfortunate injuries at wide receiver just this past Monday night against Baltimore. But what's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, so the Falcons beat the Buccaneers back in Week 5 in that overtime thriller where Kirk Cousins went off, and unfortunately for the Buccaneers, they're not going to have Chris Godwin this game, and we'll see about Mike Evans. Their offense has been really good in the past. I know they kind of got blown out by the Ravens, but they did beat the Saints 51-27 in Week 6. But I think with the injury sustained in the receiver, I think they're going to have to rely on their run game. They do have 2 really good running backs in Bucky Irvin and Rashad White, but they're not super consistent. While the Falcons, they just lost to the Seahawks. They got blown out, and Michael Penix threw his first pass, so good for him. But I think the Falcons are just going to rely on their run game. Bijan Robinson is absolutely everything that they wanted, and I think the Falcons are going to beat the Bucs in a convincing game, since the Bucs do not have their do not have Godwin and may not have Evans in this game.
Yeah, like seeing that Monday night, especially the Godwin injury, because Evans left the game pretty early after his touchdown. But seeing, the Godwin injury was gruesome to see and unfortunate, considering they were just seconds away from the game ending, because they basically lost that game beforehand. But to lose Godwin just like right before the game was actually over, I mean, that's a big loss right there, because Chris Godwin was on his way to having a career year. And I think he was actually a pending free agent, or will be a pending free agent coming after this season. But that's just unfortunate to see from Godwin and from the Buccaneers right there, because Baker could be without 2 of his main targets and their depth guys. I think it's Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan, the rookie. I think they're going to have to step up. They're going to have to make some big plays and try to really communicate and get that chemistry going with Baker. But I think they're going to have to rely a whole hell of a lot on that rushing game, which, they got a decent, not even a decent, I would consider a very, very good running back room. They just got to be more consistent, and that O-line just got to be able to do what they got to do to open lanes and block for them. The Falcons, they suffered a devastating loss last week against Seattle. They basically got blown out. That defense did not really hold their own against Geno Smith and Seattle. But Atlanta, they're looking for a bounce back win. I think that they do get it, because I believe they won in overtime, if I'm not mistaken, back in Week 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, if Godwin or Evans wasn't hurt, I would say that Tampa Bay wins here and splits the 2 meetings right here between Atlanta and Tampa Bay. But after the injuries, I just don't know what to expect from Tampa Bay going forward. Especially we don't really know the severity of Mike Evans' injury, so he could play, he could not play. But I don't know, coming off a short week and whatnot, I wouldn't say it's very likely, but that's just me. But I think Atlanta gets the victory here. I think Kirk Cousins has another strong game. I think Bijan Robinson runs the football very effectively. I mean, considering what we saw from Derrick Henry, I think the game plan is pretty much simple when it comes to Atlanta. Just feed the ball to Robinson or even Tyler Algier, and Atlanta should be good to go for this one. And I think they get the dub here and basically sweep Tampa Bay in this NFC South divisional matchup here. But next game, we have the Green Bay Packers, who are coming off a crazy win against the Houston Texans, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, well, the Packers seem to have finally got their kicker, which they have badly needed since Mason Crosby left. And they got a really good win over the Texans, which I think was very impressive. Jordan Love, obviously, he normally has his weekly interception, but then other than that, he's just absolutely dominant. I think a bit of a hot take. This season, I think he's really played like a borderline top 5 quarterback, even better than maybe like CJ Stroud and some other guys who people are really high on. And then the Jaguars, they look good last week. I think that their offense is better than it was earlier in the season. I do think that they're going to be competitive towards the end of the season. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's a good quarterback. He just hasn't had a ton of help. And then they've got a really nice receiving core. Brian Thomas is absolutely amazing as a rookie. They love to have him there. And then I think Tank Bigsby is a really good running back. I think he may be better than Travis Etienne, but having two good running backs is obviously better than just having one. Um, but I do think the Packers are going to win this game. I think that the Jags are going to struggle to stop Jordan Love and that passing attack, which is so dominant. But I do think it's going to be closer than people may expect. So I'm going to take the Packers in this one.
Yeah, same here. I'm going Green Bay. I mean, Jacksonville got a very necessary win against New England last week, but I don't really see them getting a win again in 2 straight weeks. I don't see them getting back-to-back wins. The thing with Jacksonville is like the talent that they possess, especially on that offense, on paper is like really good. Brian Thomas, a great rookie. Evan Ingram, a reliable tight end. Christian Kirk still good. They got a good running back committee, though. I think at this stage they don't exactly need ETN. Like when it comes to the trade deadline, I think it's coming up within the next week or so. I would say that they should consider trading away ETN, getting whatever capital, and go with Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson because they've showcased, their credibility and how, reliable they can be if ETN is not playing. They showcased that several weeks so far this season. So if I'm Jacksonville, I would consider that, but they may want to keep ETN because he could still be a valuable player for that offense and, sticking around with Trevor Lawrence as they were teammates all the way back from Clemson. But Jacksonville overall is just kind of inconsistent in my opinion. It's just like one week they'll have a good performance, then the next week they'll just be the Jaguars that we all know that they are and whatnot, despite the talent that they possess. Green Bay, I was very surprised on how they were able to limit C.J. Stroud. I don't think Stroud at all had even 100 passing yards against Green Bay. Like that defense limited Stroud. They contained him. They continuously sent the pressure. They sacked Stroud, and they just know how to garner turnovers for that defense. And you're able to do that and give Jordan Love in the offense, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed the opportunity to take advantage of that. Then Green Bay's on another level. And Jordan Love, he is very turnover heavy, I would say. I feel like he needs to limit that. And if he does, then he would be on another realm, though I still think that Jordan Love is a very, very good quarterback. And no doubt about it, he is the guy for them. I mean, the guy just knows how to sling the ball and throw touchdowns and get points on the board for them. And I think that continues in this game against Jacksonville. I think Green Bay gets the victory on this one here. Next game, we have another divisional matchup. I think it's AFC East, if I'm not mistaken here. We got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. What's your prediction?
Yeah, so the Colts got a non-convincing victory over the really bad Dolphins. Anthony Richardson went 10 for 24, and they really won that game thanks to the Dolphins' offense being really bad, and Anthony Richardson and then Tyler Goodson had a really good game. I question Anthony Richardson. His accuracy is really bad. Obviously, as a runner, he's hard to stop. He's this huge, really athletic guy. But when you can't complete more than 50% of your passes on a consistent basis, it's going to be really hard to win. And then I think Jonathan Taylor may try to come back this week. Obviously, if he comes back, that's a big get. Tyler Goodson has been, I think he's been better than Trey Sermon for them. But obviously, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a bigger improvement for him. And then they've got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. They've got a good receiving core. But the Houston Texans, I think, C.J. Stroud, he had a bad game. I think he had 86 passing yards exactly last week, but I think he's going to rebound. I think they're going to have a much better game this year and this game, and I think that they're going to be able to beat the Colts. So I'm going to take the Texans in this one.
Yeah, and to correct myself real quick, it's actually AFC South, but it's whatever. I would agree. I would go with Houston here. I mean, if I'm the Colts, I would strongly consider putting in Joe Flacco because, I don't know what it is with Anthony Richardson. He's just not living up to the pedigree and the potential. We all know the athlete he has and the size that he brings at the position. It's just he is not showcasing it. He is not connecting the ball to his targets more than he should. In the little action that we've seen from his rookie year, I feel like that he has absolutely regressed. And if Richardson wants any shot of remaining the starter or just showcasing that pedigree, he's going to have to really step up, especially in a divisional matchup here against Houston. Coming off a close game, but a loss to Green Bay, Houston's going to want to get back on the win column. D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon, guys like that defense. I would go with Houston here. Like the Colts again, like they need to strongly consider going with Flacco to remain competitive to stay in games because with Richardson, they're not really going anywhere. Like they barely got past the Miami Dolphins last week, if you remember. So I mean, they got a win, but it was, barely. You know what I'm saying? Like with Joe Flacco, maybe
Yeah.
it could have been a lot better. The performance could have been a bit better, but I don't see them really. I don't really see them remaining competitive or sticking up with Houston here. So I'm just gonna go with the Texans on this one. I could even see this as a blowout. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Divisional matchup, but one out. I could see Houston blowing out the Colts here, since it's in Houston. So that could play a part in that too. But next game, we got the New Orleans Saints, who are on a 5-game losing streak on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers, who just lost Monday night to Arizona on the road. So, what's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, the Saints started 2-0 and have lost five straight, as you said, and the Chargers started 3-0 and have lost three straight. And they've just continuously found ways to blow games. I think Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. I think they'll get this thing figured out, but they really have just continuously found different ways to lose games. And I don't know who the Saints are going to have at quarterback this week. Obviously, I think they would like to have Derek Carr back. I don't think they placed him on IR, but Spencer Rattler, I think he's got some flashes, but I think he was a day 3 pick. You're obviously not expecting a day 3 pick at quarterback to go out there and really play well. And then their offense overall is just really bad. I think they really need to embrace a rebuild. They have a lot of old players, Alvin Kamara, uh, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis. Like they really just need to rebuild because they don't have a lot of young talent on that team. And then the Chargers, they need to get Herbert more help. This is just, I mean, every single year he doesn't have enough help on that team, and they're really holding him back. But J.K. Dobbins has had a really nice resurrection story, so that's awesome for him. I'm glad that he's playing well.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the Chargers are going to be the team that get the bounce back win this week in a close one over the Saints.
Yeah, it's just the Saints, man. Like they blew their load within the first 2 weeks, and then since then they have not even been able to duplicate any of that performance on offense. I don't know what happened there. Losing Derek Carr definitely hurts them for sure. I think he'll still be out for next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. But Rodler, he's came in the past 2 to 3 games. He has flashes, like you stated, but it's just very inconsistent. He's playing like a rookie. I think last week, Thursday Night Football, they even put in Jake Haener, and he led a touchdown drive, and I think it was the lone drive he was in. So the Saints may have to consider a quarterback change up until Derek Carr comes back. Going with Haener, that could give them some oomph on that offense. That could give them something there, I think, Haener in there with Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, guys like that, that could give the Saints a spark. Against a Chargers team that, defensively ain't playing horribly. They're holding their own, I would say, for the most part. The offense is it's basically just Herbert. You know what I'm saying? And J.K. Dobbins, he's having a career resurgence. He's looking good. But I think last week, altogether, I think the Chargers only had like 59 rushing yards completely against Arizona. So even the rushing attack wasn't really getting anything going. So it's basically just Herbert there, and he had like almost 350 passing yards, but they didn't even score a touchdown. I think all the points was just field goals, if I'm not mistaken. So the Chargers are kind of in a pit right now with Harbaugh, though. Jim Harbaugh, I think he'll figure his way out. I think he'll figure out, what he needs to do. It's just gonna have to get past this season and just do what they need to do right here. And Herbert's just gonna have to get past because they're not really gonna be of much this year. It's just what Harbaugh could bring to the table in his first year as Chargers head coach, but they're definitely going to need to get a win here, and I just don't see the Saints. The Saints absolutely need to win big time. Losing 5 straight, I mean, like you need to win, no question about it. I just don't know if they get it here. I can honestly see New Orleans losing 6 straight, even if they make a quarterback change, and I just think Jim Harbaugh just kind of outcoaches Dennis Allen and just gets the Chargers back on the win column. So give me Los Angeles to win here. So. But next game, we got a pretty good one, as a matter of fact, in my opinion. We got the Buffalo Bills at the Seattle Seahawks. 2 teams that had very impressive wins last week, and they meet here this week. What's your prediction?
Yeah, both of them had some blowout wins, so that was good for both of them. And Josh Allen this season, I think it's really impressive. He has 12 touchdowns and no interceptions, which is really scary that he's now turning the ball over. And I think a lot of that is they don't have as good weapons as they had in the past. No more Stephon Diggs, but he's spreading the ball out a lot more to Keon Coleman. They just got Amari Cooper, which is good. I think he had a touchdown. And then Khalil Shakir has been really good. And then, James Cook. So he's been spreading the ball. And it's really a two-man race for MVP at this point, I think, between him and Lamar Jackson. I obviously, as a Steelers fan, I'd love to throw in TJ Watt there, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then the Seahawks, they've also got, again, as a Steelers fan, it's you gotta be jealous of their receiving core. They're DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. And I think DK Metcalf got hurt, but even if he is out, they still have a really nice receiving core. They won their first 3 games and then lost their next 3, and then they got to win. Obviously, this is an important game for them to win because everybody else in their division is under 500, so they want to be able to stay above 500. But I think continue to be on a roll, and until he starts turning the ball over, I don't know how you stop the Bills. So I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
Yeah, and you're actually right on Josh Allen. 12 touchdowns passing wise and no interceptions. He hasn't even, turned over the ball once, not even rushing wise. You got 15 touchdowns altogether. Like, coming from Josh Allen, who we know is very turnover heavy, to not turn over the ball once within 8 weeks is actually extremely impressive, considering that he does not have a number one, or didn't have a number one until the Amari Cooper trade. So props to Josh Allen on that. The Bills, they got Amari Cooper, and they really connected with him late into the game against Tennessee last week, and Cooper's already showcasing, what he can bring to the table as Allen's number one wide receiver. They're getting Keon Coleman involved a bit more. James Cook is a beast. They also have Ray Davis, who's a rookie, I believe. He's very capable of leading the charge at running back. The Bills, they have just very, very good players on offense that are really starting to connect and build that chemistry and just starting to execute. Like, the Bills are on fire right now. Seattle, though, you're right, that wide receiver group. Metcalf, I think he has a grade 1 MCL sprain. He's week to week. He may play, he may not play, but, they still got targets. Lockett's still credible. Jackson Smith-Njigba still a very handy target. Noah Fant at tight end. Their running backs. Kenneth Walker's having a very, very good campaign this year. This is going to be a very impressive and very fun game to watch for sure. I can see this being a shootout. I really can, with the quarterbacks on how they've been playing, passing wise, and the targets that they got, the offensive weapons. Don't want to underestimate their defenses one bit. They have guys that can make plays and get turnovers and do what they need to do. But I can see this being very high scoring and very offensive here. Should be a very fun matchup here. But I'm going to go with Buffalo to get the win here in Seattle. Playing Seattle at home is no joke. It's very difficult to do, but if there's a team that can do it, it's definitely Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills for sure. So I'm going to go Buffalo getting the win here. But it should be a fun game nonetheless. But next game, we have an absolute bore fest. We have the Carolina Panthers at the Denver Broncos. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think every year at this point, there's always a team that has a winning record that everybody knows, isn't that good. I think the Broncos are that team. I think they've had a lot of really unimpressive wins. I know they blew up the Saints, but the Saints aren't that good of a team. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Jets 10-9, where Bo Nix had like 60 passing yards. And I think at one point he was 7 for 15 with negative yards. Don't know how you do that, but he has been better since the first 2 games when he had 4 interceptions. He's had 5 touchdowns and 1 interception since then. So he's definitely improved a lot. And I think the reason that they're 4-3, despite thinking they're a great team, is because of Sean Payton. He's done a very, very good job with this team after last year. So lucky for them, they play the worst team in the league, the Panthers, and they're just awful in every aspect. Losing Derek Brown for the season doesn't help, but it's just such an uninspiring team. I don't really understand why they're not putting Bryce Young back in the game. Back as the starter. I don't really get what they're accomplishing by having Andy Dalton. If you're going to end up with the number 1 pick, you at least got to see what you have in Bryce Young. Even if he sucks, then you can figure out you need another quarterback. But they do have some weapons. Deontay Johnson has been decent. I think Adam Thielen, he's hurt, but maybe he'll come back soon. And then Xavier Leggett has showed flashes. And then they've got Chuba Hubbard, and Jonathan Brooks hopefully comes back for them. But it's just a really, really bad football team, and I don't know if they're going to win a game for the rest of the season. So I think the Broncos are going to win this one, but maybe it's a very low-scoring game.
Yeah, without a doubt. I see this being very low scoring here. It's just the Panthers. The only benefit and highlight of that team has been Chuba Hubbard. I think he's top 5 in rushing yards already this year. Hubbard's showcasing that talent and potential that the Panthers knew that he had. He's having a very nice campaign here. Getting Jonathan Brooks, the rookie stud running back there, arguably the best running back coming out of the draft last year, like getting him involved, that will really help in their rushing attack and whatnot. That should be a good asset to have. It's just the quarterback position, despite the targets, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen when he comes back, they also have that rookie of theirs. It's just the quarterback position is a mess. They benched Bryce Young after seeing him play however many games, I think it was week 2, and they benched him. And Andy Dalton came in week 1, had a good game against the Raiders. I mean, anybody can. And since then, Dalton has not lived up to anything. It's just, at this point, it's like you're better off going with the number 1 pick you had last year. I mean, you traded the house to get the number 1 pick and for Bryce Young. It's like, at this point, see what you got, see what Young has learned within the number of weeks that he's sat on the bench. Just see if Young can really step his game and showcase that talent that Carolina thought he had. But I don't think it's really. I don't think the Panthers are really anything credible. It's just at this point, it's just see what you got, right? See what you got. Just get past this season and just carry on to whatever good you got, and just build from there with the new head coach, which I believe is Dave Canellis and whatnot. But it's just a rough ride for Carolina. Denver, I'll give him this. Sean Payton is coaching a lot better than he did in his first year. They're 4-3 right now. That defense has really carried him this whole season so far. The defensive guys that they got, they even lost some guys, but the guys that they have are stepping in. They're making plays. They're doing what they need to do to carry them and keep them in games. It's just the offense. They're doing enough, right? They're doing enough to win games, but like there's going to be that one opponent. There's going to be that 1 week where it's just like the defense can't hold their own. They're going to break, and the offense ain't going to do anything. I don't see Bo Nix as a good quarterback. I don't think he's having a very good rookie year. It's just, like he's missing targets. He's not connecting with his players. Cortland Sutton's not even getting involved as much as he should and whatnot. The rushing attack, I would say it's a little bit better, but I don't think it's still impactful. The Broncos offense just isn't impactful. This game's not really going to matter to anybody outside the 2 fan bases. I don't see this being a close game. I don't see this game being high scoring at all. I just see Denver getting the win here, and then that's just about it for me. It's just an uninspiring game in my eyes as an NFL fan. But if I got to pick a team, I'm going to go with the home team at Denver. They're the better team on paper, but not by much. Next game, we have another divisional matchup. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders. Do I even need to ask what your prediction is here, man?
Yeah, I mean, this is the lock of the week. Aiden O'Connell's injured, but I think Minshew's better anyways. Mahomes, interestingly, does have more interceptions than touchdowns. He has 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions passing. Obviously not having Rashee Rice and then Pacheco hurts. I do think, he's going to go. I mean, if this is Mahomes, he could very easily just throw 30 touchdowns and no interceptions the rest of the season. So I think he's going to pick it up. But the Chiefs defense has been just absolutely amazing. And it's been a big reason why they've won so many games. They're 6-0, and, they're looking to potentially three-peat because nobody can beat Mahomes, unfortunately, even when he is playing bad. And then the Raiders are just awful. They traded Devontae Adams. I don't know when Jacoby Myers is going to be back, but I think at this point they might as well trade him. I've seen Max Crosby maybe traded. I know Lions fans want him. I think that that's a little unlikely, but maybe they trade him. And then it's just a bad team overall, just in every aspect. I don't know why they gave Minshew that big contract when there were plenty of other options that would have been better. The Raiders are home, but the Chiefs are going to absolutely blow them out. I don't think this is going to be remotely close.
Yeah, no question about it. Kansas City all the way. The Raiders, they're better off just cleaning house. I mean, trading away Max Crosby would be a tough pill to swallow, right? Just like when they did to Devontae Adams. But it's at this point, they have nobody. They have no quarterback. They don't have a running back. They have no wide receivers. All they have is Brock Bowers on offense. He's a stud. He's a great guy. He's a guy that you can build the offense around and whatnot as that number 1 target right there. He's having a great rookie campaign. The defense, all it is Max Crosby. And maybe even Robert Spillane, I'll throw him in out there. He's done very good as a Raider since he signed with them. But the Raiders are better off just closing the season up, selling, whatever players they got, just getting whatever capital and just rebuilding. Even with Antonio Pierce in his first full year as a permanent head coach. Just at this point, do what you got to do, because coming into this season, whatever you had planned, it's just not working. Obviously, it's not working. And going up against the Chiefs, a division rival, this is the worst week you could possibly have at the moment, considering your situation. I know they lost Connell for like 4 to 6 weeks with an injury. I think it's a thumb injury. And they have Gardner in there who they bench for Connell and whatnot. It's just not a good situation. The Chiefs, Mahomes ain't playing up to his par, but even then they're still undefeated. Like, that's just an unfortunate and ridiculous stat right there by Kansas City. Like, defense is playing good. They got Kareem Hunt back in town with the injuries that they sustained on offense, and he's, really doing good. They got guys that can step up. Unfortunately, it's just the Chiefs, man. Like, even when it's not looking good for them when it comes to injuries and whatnot, they still find a way. That's just the type of coach Andy Reid is, and that's just how he is with his players and whatnot. And, having Mahomes is always a great thing, too. So, give me Kansas City in a blowout. It's just Vegas don't stand a chance. Next game, we got the Chicago Bears against the Washington Commanders. We got Caleb Williams versus possibly Jaden Daniels, but he's dealing with a rib injury where he's diagnosed as week to week. So we may see the both rookie quarterbacks play, but it's uncertain at the moment. But it should be a fun game. But what's your prediction here?
Yeah, I do think that the Commanders' offense is, it's obviously if you have Marcus Mariota versus Jaden Daniels, it's going to be different. I think they're hopeful that he's going to play, but we'll have to see if he does play. I do give a lot of credit to Cliff Kingsbury. He's been, obviously a really good offensive coordinator. Marcus Mariota came in and threw 2 touchdowns. I think even if Mariota does play, it will be close. But Jaden Daniels is just different. He's a dynamic runner. He's been really good as a passer. And then, even without a super great receiving core, and he's got Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz is, still playing the league somehow. And then they've just got a bunch of other guys there. Brian Robinson's a good running back, but I think the Bears are a really dangerous team at this point, and could be a threat in the NFC because their defense is ridiculously good. They just had a blowout win last week, I believe, and Caleb Williams has played really well this season. He started off slow, but he's just been unstoppable since. And then the receiving core is really good. DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, Keenan Allen, and then DeAndre Swift has played really well. I think even if Jaden Daniels does play, I think that the Bears are going to get this win, but I think this is going to be a really, really good game between the top 2 picks. So I got the Bears.
This should be a very fun game right here. Coming into the season, with 2 rookie quarterbacks and the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, and the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, it's like they were setting forth for, their future franchise quarterbacks or potential franchise quarterbacks. I was like, all right, well, what could they bring to the table in their first season? And when it comes to the Bears and the Commanders, they have been 2 of the most surprising teams this season, in my honest opinion. And both of them are in the NFC. Chicago, they're 4-2. And believe it or not, they're 4-2, and they're 4th in their division. That goes to show how stacked that division is. It's a fun division this year. Such a good division. You're right. It's fun matchups. It's just great teams all together this year so far. And props to Caleb Williams for taking the Bears to this point. Very rough start early on. He wasn't looking that great. But since then, he just lighting the league on fire. He's lining it up. He's connecting with his targets. It's just great job by Caleb Williams. He's really starting to get comfortable and confident as a quarterback. And Jaden Daniels is just a freak. He knows how to throw the ball. He knows how to use his legs. Unfortunately, he's dealing with a rib injury. The Commanders are going to have to be smart about his situation if they really want to get him in for this game, because this is a big game right here. And I believe the Commanders, they are 5-2. And the Commanders, just like the Bears, their defense has really stepped up. They've really played very well. And they got guys on offense that are just executing. They're making plays. It's just props to the Bears right now and Caleb Williams for what they're doing. Props to the Commanders and Dan Quinn for coming into his first year as Commanders coach and just pretty much changing the culture and atmosphere of the Commanders. So, it's as a fan, it's nice to see, these 2 teams coming from where they always have been, right? Recently, and just 2 rookie quarterbacks. It's fun to watch to see these 2 quarterbacks lead their teams into winning records as of right now. And to see these 2 teams face and these 2 quarterbacks face potentially, it's going to be a fun watch. And there's a reason why the NFL flexed the game and switched it from 1 p.m. Eastern to 4:25 Eastern. So, but for this game, I was really undecided on this one. But I think with the Jaden Daniels situation, because I don't know if he's playing. If he wasn't injured, I would go with Washington here because I think Daniels is actually playing a little bit better than I think Daniels is playing a little bit better than Williams. But because of the situation and Mariota possibly stepping in, though he looked good last week, I think I'm going to go with Chicago here. And I think the number one overall pick actually gets the win here. He gets the one up right here against Washington. Just right now, he's looking good, and I don't think that's really going to stop anytime soon. So, should be a fun game. I would say this is without a doubt America's game of the week, 100%. So give me Chicago here. Sunday Night Football. We have possibly another blowout at hand. Maybe we have the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers. Now the Niners have been suffering injuries basically week by week, and they just got plagued with another one, the Brandon Ayuk. He tore his ACL and MCL, so it's an awful situation for the 49ers, but Dallas is coming off a much-needed bye week, so this could be an interesting primetime game, but what's your prediction?
Yeah, so I think if you told people before the season that the 3-3 Cowboys were going to be playing the 3-4 49ers in the on Sunday Night Football, they'd laugh at you. Now, maybe not on the Cowboys end, but definitely on the 49ers end. They've clearly suffered from the Christian McCaffrey injury. I know Jordan Mason has came in and he's been nice, but he's just not as dynamic as Christian McCaffrey. And I think Deebo Samuel is dealing with like pneumonia, so we'll see if he plays this game. But the 49ers, it seems like every other week they're either really good or just really bad. And so we'll have to see which type of 49ers we get this week. But at this point, I think they're almost in survival mode. Just they've got to survive and have a decent record until Christian McCaffrey comes back, and that's when their offense can really get a lot more dynamic. But the Cowboys have also been really bad this season. I think they had a bye week, like you said, and then before that, they got blown out by the Lions. I mean, when you have offensive linemen lining up as a receiver, you know your team's in trouble. And Jerry Jones can sit here and say as many times as he wants that they didn't have the cap to sign Derrick Henry, but this would have been a much better team with Derrick Henry. And so I think this is going to be it depends on what 49ers are going to get. But I'm going to predict here that we get a better version of the 49ers, and I think the 49ers are going to win this game fairly comfortably.
Yeah, when it comes to Dallas, I mean, like, they're just not looking good right now. Dak is passing-wise, passing yardage-wise, I think he's doing very good so far. I think he's on par for another great year passing-wise. He's not as turnover-heavy as he normally would be. I've always considered Dak as a very serviceable regular season quarterback, but when it comes to the postseason, forget about it. And that's just the Cowboys in general. But, Mike McCarthy, I think this is his last year, and he's not really proving it to Jerry Jones. He's not proving it to his players and to the team overall of like, hey, I should be here. The Cowboys are having a very down year. It's just, all they have is CeeDee Lamb and maybe even Jake Ferguson, but that's about it. I know they suffered injuries on the wide receiver room a couple times this year, and their rushing attack. They have no star running back. I mentioned the Jaguars should consider trading away ETN. If there's a team that could use ETN's contributions, it is Dallas 100%. I think ETN would fit like a glove with Dallas and get Dallas really going when it comes to running the football and just being that extra hand receiving-wise for Dak Prescott on that offense. That's just me, though. But Dallas can't run the ball, and their defense can't stop the run. I mean, when you have that recipe, it's just a bad one to have. It's not a good mix. And their defense just hasn't been as good at getting turnovers and just stopping anything whatsoever. Going up against San Francisco and that offense, Purdy, he's been more turnover heavy than he usually has been. And I know it doesn't help that, he's suffering injuries. I think Deebo has a lingering injury. Jawan Jennings, a lingering injury. They just lost Ayuk. Kittle, lingering injury, I think. Of course, McCaffrey. I mean, props to Jordan Mason for having a great season. He stepped in almost 700 rushing yards, but I mean, there's only one Christian McCaffrey, and he brings a level of impact that San Francisco is 100% missing out. So, and that defense just has not been as legit as they once were within the past number of years. They still have guys, they still have playmakers, but they're just not doing what they need to do. Hence the 3-4 record. But San Francisco needs a win badly. They need to get back on the win column. They need to build some momentum. And against Dallas of all teams, a very, bitter rival, a familiar team that the 49ers are known to go up against several times. It feels like every year they do, but San Francisco, I think, to get a win here. If Dallas doesn't get anything going, if they don't stay in the game early, then I think this is another blowout at hand by Dallas. And that's the last thing Dallas needs, but every year just appears to be the case. When Dallas goes up against a team, especially a legitimate team, they stand no chance. So give me the San Francisco 49ers to get a win here on prime time. But to finish off the Week 8 predictions here, Monday Night Football, we have the New York Giants led by Daniel Jones still at the Pittsburgh Steelers led by Russell Wilson. What is your prediction for Monday Night Football?
Yeah, so the Giants have been really, really bad the past 2 weeks. I think Daniel Jones, he had 99 passing yards this past week, and they've only scored 10 points combined. So this offense is just really, really bad. But I do think that you can't underestimate Malik Neighbors at this point. I mean, he's in the elite wide receiver conversation. He's an absolute game changer. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't really have a good quarterback throwing to him. And then they've got, I think, Tyrone Trace, who's been a really nice young rookie running back for them. And then they have Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. So they do have weapons, but Daniel Jones is just terrible, and he's holding this team back. And I don't know what the contract looks like this upcoming season, but they really do need to move on from him because they're not going anywhere with him. I do always, the Steelers, 230-point games, 230-plus point games these past 2 weeks, just comfortably beat opponents that they're better than. You have to wonder, is this going to continue? Because I don't remember the last time we comfortably beat 3 teams in a row. I hope it does. But, Russell Wilson, a lot of people question if it was the right move to go with him. But I think he absolutely was the right decision. He just improves this passing game by a lot. He was struggled early in the game, but when he really got going, he was making plays. The big thing about him over Fields is he really gives Pickens an opportunity to showcase his one-on-one ability. He threw him up a bunch of 50-50 balls, and I think Pickens came down with a few of them, and then we even got a PI. And, I love at the end of the game, 30 seconds of 4th and 2, we're up 30-15, and we run it on 4th down and get it. And then we win 37-15. That's something we haven't seen in the past. It's something that Matt Canada would never do.
No.
We wouldn't get 30 points with Matt Canada, but I just love the aggressiveness this offense finally has. There's way, they look like an actual offense. And then his defense has been dominant as well. I think Peyton Wilson had like 10 tackles this past game. He's all over the field. He's been a great rookie so far. And then Patrick Queen has really stepped up. And then good on Beanie Bishop having 2 interceptions and almost having a pick 6 if Devontae Adams didn't make a ridiculous tackle. But he's been getting picked on all season long, and finally he makes the other teams pay. So I think this week Daniel Jones is going to think twice about trying to pick on Beanie Bishop. But, it's going to be, I think if Joey Porter can shut down Malik Neighbors, I don't think this game is going to be close. So I hope that can happen. But I do think the Steelers are going to win this comfortably. But obviously, you always got to wonder, is this going to be a game that they just lose, that they shouldn't lose? But I do think the Steelers will win this game.
Yeah, I hope that they don't underestimate the Giants one bit here. Now, don't get me wrong. The Giants are not a good football team, but still, I don't want to underestimate them because they still have talent. Malik Neighbors is a stud rookie wide receiver. They got a very good rookie running back in Tyrone Tracy. I believe he's slowly taking the reins as the running back one over Devin Singletary. They have other targets. Wan'Dale Robinson, he sees targets like it's nothing every single week. Darius Slayton's a good deep threat. They have talent. They have guys that can get the job done. It's just Daniel Jones at the top at quarterback is just not what the Giants need. He had that really, really decent season in Brian DeBull's first year as Giants head coach, and they gave him the mega contract. And of course, as you would expect, Daniel Jones has not lived up to it one bit, and Brian DeBull has even gotten some debate on if he should be on the hot seat as the Giants head coach and whatnot. So that's a discussion for another time. But the thing that kind of concerns me about the Giants is their pass rush, because I think they lead the NFL in 31 sacks, with Dexter Lawrence leading the charge with 9 already, and that absolutely worries me big time with the offensive line. Now, I'll give them props. The guys that stepped in, Ryan McCollum and Mason McCormick, they've had to step in, after losing Zach Frazier and James Daniels to injuries and whatnot. They stepped up last week against the Jets and their front seven, which is stacked in my opinion. They're going to have to step up again and try to limit these guys right here. The offensive line is going to have to be key going up against this Giants pass rush. But outside of that, the Giants don't really have a whole hell of a lot. They got talent, but they just don't have the guys that can execute consistently. And, Daniel Jones at quarterback is just kind of what's bringing the team down. But the Steelers coming off back-to-back 30-point games, it's, when it comes to the Steelers, especially recently, it's something that they don't do very often. It's a rarity, once in a blue moon. And when it happens, I will absolutely cherish it. I will appreciate it. And I got to give props to the team. Russell Wilson coming in his first game and doing what he needed to do to sling the ball, spread the ball around the targets. They made big plays. Guys on defense, like you said, Peyton Wilson, he's getting more playing time. He's stepping up. Beanie Bishop, he stepped up tremendously. Had the game of his career so far in his young career. Like, big time. Props to them. Yeah, another primetime game, second straight primetime game. They're going to have to step up big time here, even against the Giants. Record-wise, they're not a good team. Team-wise, they're not a good team, but they still have talent that can make plays to a degree, just not consistently. But I'm talking about certain guys here. But, the Steelers, they're going to have to be on their A game again. And if they do what they did last week, they 100% have a shot at gaining, I believe it would be the third straight win, going to 6-2 just before the bye, which would be great because, the Steelers are going to have to stack up wins before they, head after the bye because we know how after the bye in the schedule looks. But Steelers are looking good. They just got to be consistent with what they're doing. Going up against the Giants, it's just do what you got to do, execute, just make plays, and just build off of what you did last week and even against the Raiders and whatnot. But I got the Steelers winning here. It could be a close game. I think it depends on what Steelers team really wants to show up here. It really all depends. But, if they did what they did last week, then I think the Steelers 100% got a shot at winning here, possibly in another blowout fashion, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, but we'll see. But I got the Steelers winning here and going to 6-2 just before the bye. And that would just be absolutely great for the Pittsburgh Steelers right there. But, guys, that is the Week 8 predictions. I want to give a shout-out, a huge thank you to Paper Portal for joining me for these Week 8 predictions. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we head out of here, Paper Portal?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and go Steelers.
100%, man. Thanks again for joining me for the Week 8 predictions. That's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section. Let us know your predictions down in the comment section. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!